Hi guys! Today we are going to analyze the legendary game played by Nigel Short, English Grandmaster, against Timman. The game was played in 2016. So let's look at the position. Short is playing white pieces and stays clearly better, because his pieces are quite active, queen, rooks and knights, and the king is quite protected also. Black has very active queen and bishop, which make battery, and if knight goes somewhere, queen would mate the king. Rooks are, on the contrary, very passive, cannot move almost anywhere, and the king is weak here because of weak black squared and lack of black squared bishop here. So, what white should do? It would be nice to place the knight here in order to capture the pawn with rook. Next, rook takes, queen takes, king moves, and queen h7 under defense of the knight, it would be mate. But queen would mate the king. Also, it would be interesting to move g4 in order to push h5, h6, and then put the queen on g7 under defense of the pawn and mate the king. But the problem is queen can take this knight right after g4 move. So we'll lose the knight, and now we can exchange the queens, which is not in our plans. Let's move back. What else we can do? Let's ask another question. What black wants to do? If black wants to move their queen, for example, some random move happened and black could move the queen, but then we can easily move the knight on g5 and threaten to capture on f7 the pawn and then mate the king in 2. If queen moves back, threatening to make a battery again, mating in 1, we can just easily stop this diagonal, this move, and block it and never get mated. What else can black do? For example, they can move their bishop and attack our rook. It's natural move, but how can we reply? So we can move g4, sacrifice our rook, and if it's gonna be taken, we just capture the pawn on h5. We want to move it on h6 even, and then queen moves on g7 under defense of the pawn. Again, it's mate. So they have to take it. And then we would like to activate our rook on g file, but it could be captured here. So at first check, we are winning this pawn with checks, and then activating the rook, rook g4, mate. So bishop cannot take this rook. How would they react? For example, they can capture our pawn, right? Then we can easily move the knight on g5, and the same idea, rook f7, queen f7, queen h7 is coming. So neither queen nor bishop can move. That means they should move the rook. For example, some random move again, king h2, they move their rook, for example here, and then what should white do? Now we will see the legendary idea of Nigel Short, march of the king. King g3, then f4, then g5 and h6. In order to protect g7 square, and queen could move here under defense of the king eventually. So what happened? In the game was played rook c8, king moved, again, king moved, and now actually the mate is unstoppable. But the game continued with bishop c8, attacking the rook, and after king g5, black resigned, because next move will be king on h6 and queen g7 mate. What a beautiful idea, very rare, because in the middle game where there are still a lot of pieces, it's quite dangerous for king to move forward and usually we should keep it under defense of the pawns, somewhere backwards. But this is quite a unique idea and very solid here.
Wishing you beautiful games!